stranger!
Me?
Howdy, stranger.
Me?
Howdy, stranger.
Me?
Thanks, stranger.
Me?
Good luck, stranger.
It's Steve.
Good shooting, stranger.
I said it's Steve.
Looking at my keys, stranger?
Can you help?
Fine, let's do this.
Good.
The Old West theme was used for one of the greatest video games ever made, Red Dead Redemption. Now, Red Dead is a game that I really wish I could go back in time, forget that I played, and play it again for the first time all over again. Sadly, we are not talking about that game. Today, we are going to examine an old Western classic that will never die, Mad Dog McCree. Mad Dog McCree was developed and released by American Laser Games. So, if Digital Pictures is the king of poorly acted full-motion video games, then American Laser Games is the king of poorly acted full-motion light gun video games. American Laser Games was founded by Robert Greb, who originally developed training programs for the police departments. The company took the software that they had developed for the police training and transitioned into the arcade market. American Laser Games went on to develop multiple light gun titles throughout the first half of the 1990s. After going out of business in the late 90s, their properties are now owned by Digital Leisure. Mad Dog McCree was released in the arcades in 1990. There are two variants of the arcade machine at release. One was a standard-sized arcade cabinet, not too different than modern light gun releases. The other had the player holding their six-shooter around 4 feet from the screen and set it up like an Old West shootout. My first experience with this game was with the full, larger version. My family was on vacation at Worlds of Fun in Kansas City, and there were a couple arcades scattered throughout the park, and I stumbled across this machine. Now, I've never at the time was a huge fan of Western movies, but for some reason I loved romanticizing the idea of the Western theme. I was drawn to the machine because it was 1990, it had kind of a quick draw environment, and it was clear full motion video. And so I promptly pumped in my quarters and died very quickly. Now, fast forward a few years, my brother buys a Sega CD, and our lives change. First titles that I purchased was Mad Dog McCree, which I believe I got at a Software Etc. for about $10. Now, I played the thing until I could beat it blindfolded, always with a controller. We never purchased a Sega Menacer, but we did have a Super Scope 6, but that's another story. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself. Mad Dog McCree was written by James Pattinson and directed by David Roberty. Both men are credited with working on other American Laser game releases. The only two actors I could find anything about were the two leads. Mad Dog is played by Rusty Dillon. Dillon starred, of course, in other American Laser game releases. He was also featured in the film And God Created Woman, starring Rebecca De Mornay. The main character that the player interacts with is the Prospector, who is played by Ben Zeller. Zeller has actual movies to his credit. He was featured in Beer Fest, Wyatt Earp, Silverado. He was also the construction coordinator for Dances with Wolves, Medicine Man, and Man on Fire. Art director for Highlander. Endgame, that is, but still, Highlander, right? Earlier I referred to this game as the Western video game that will never die. I say this because over the last 10 plus years it has received a steady release on various platforms. In the 90s, the game was released for the PC, the Philips CDI, the 3DO, and of course the Sega CD port. More recently, there has been a DVD release. It's been released for the Wii, the 3DS, Apple iOS, and the PlayStation Network for the PS3. Sadly, I have to report that I've owned several of these versions, and as of right now, I do have this on my phone. The gameplay is very simple. An outlaw tries to shoot you, you shoot them first, avoid killing civilians. Getting shot or killing an innocent will result in the loss of life. There's a couple of things going on with the gameplay. First off, there's a lot of trial and error. You will die a lot playing this game, especially if you don't play with a light gun, because you kind of have to guess as to where the cowboys are going to be coming from. Thankfully, the game is fairly forgiving by allowing unlimited continues, because it is rough seeing where the guys are coming from with the limitations on the Sega CD graphics. The opening of the game introduces you to the plot.
It's in the air. It's an ill wind that blows no good. Mad Dog McCree and his band of cutthroats are riding into town. Folks here plumb scared to death. Town's deserted. Even a tumbleweed doesn't dare blow across the streets today. Because these hombres are mean, vicious, quick with guns. I'm sure we got a sheriff. What we need's a gunslinger. You handle yourself, Pilgrim. You spray a little lead in harm's way. That'd be tricky. We'd be forever beholden to you. We're simple folk. Oh, but the mayor's daughter, you lay your eyes on her, you see what I mean. She'd be worth taking a chance for.
Hi, you're new around these parts. You heading into my daddy's town? He's the mayor. Well, if you are, you better take up some target practice first. There's a mean bunch that showed up, and I'm scared. Well, you best set your sights. I'll see you back in town.
Once starting the game, another introduction will give you your mission.
Stranger! Howdy, stranger. We need your help. Mad Dog McCree's gang is taking over the town. The mayor and his daughter have been taken hostage out to Mad Dog's hideout. The sheriff, he's locked up in jail. We're going to have to get him out to help with the gang. Can you help? Good. One more important thing.
Hey, you codger! Don't tell the thing!
Hey, now that's good shooting, stranger. What I was going to tell you is the keys to get the sheriff out of jail are with One-Eyed Jack. And he's in the saloon drinking. Now go get him.
And yes, this will not be the last time that you save the prospector's life.
No. 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 Oh, man. Mad Dog, no. Shoot the fuse. Ah, thanks, stranger.
Mad Dog might be the worst villain ever. I mean, he has his hideout on a road sign. Come on, man. You do have some level of freedom in choosing your path. You can go to the corral, the saloon, the sheriff's office, or the bank. The only stage that you need to perform in any specific order is the saloon and then the sheriff's office. These two are by far the easiest two of the first 4 missions. You have to go to the saloon first, shoot One-Eyed Jack, get his keys in order to free the sheriff. There's an interesting storyline split in the saloon. If you are able to shoot Jacko, one of One-Eyed Jack's gang members, before he shoots the barkeep, you get the ending where the barkeep hands you the keys. If you're too slow, they'll shoot the barkeep, but you're not penalized. You still get the keys in the end, just given to you by one of the barmaids.
Thanks, stranger. I'll forever beholden to you.
Now, getting the sheriff out is a bust, other than the line,
Mad Dog, you don't stand a chance. Let's go get him, stranger.
he gets himself killed right away. But at least he gives you a tip before dying.
The map to the hideout's in the mine, but you got to talk to the prospector first.
Oh, and it's also pretty fantastic to watch the cameraman approach the sheriff's office in this scene. Check out the bottom left-hand corner right there. After completing a couple of stages, you are challenged to a duel. This also happens if you are killed and then have to continue more than once. These work as a tutorial for when you fight Mad Dog in the end. You keep your cursor at the bottom of the screen until your bullets fill up, then you quick draw and shoot the outlaw right in the face. If you die, you get a fun scene with the Undertaker. Now, this was always one of my personal favorites because it's obviously very tongue-in-cheek when he talks to you, or buries you.
Looks like you're gonna pull through. Well, I'd rather be lucky than good. You took a bad hit, but it looks like you're gonna pull through. You keep shooting the innocent people and ain't gonna be none left to save. Looks like this good old boy's seen his last gunfight. Time to take him to Boot Hill.
After completing the tasks in town, you venture out to find Mad Dog and save the mayor and his daughter. First, you have to save the prospector again, then you have to find Mad Dog's hideout, then you free the mayor, and finally you have a duel with Mad Dog, who you literally have to shoot twice in the face. And I guess his face is also impervious to bullets because, spoiler alert, he's still alive at the end. The Sega CD release of Mad Dog McCree seems to have gotten generally positive reviews. GamePro gave it a 5 out of 5 for sound, control, and fun factor, and only a 3.5 out of 5 for graphics, calling it a classic Western shootout if graphics don't run you out of town. The only review I could track down for the Electronic Gaming Monthly was for the 3DO version, which it only gave a 5.5 out of 10, so I have no idea what the reaction was to the Sega CD version. Now, my thoughts on this game really are purely nostalgic, like a lot of these Sega CD games. Graphically, it really struggles. This scene is a perfect example of the graphical limitations on this game of the Sega CD. The smoke makes it really hard to make out anything going on in this scene here, especially at the end when you're trying to read the note about where Mad Dog went. I do have to say that I really enjoyed the campy acting. It looks like they had a lot of fun while they were shooting this game.
There's more inside!
The game also contains a bunch of old Western cliches. Cowboys falling off of things. It's great. This game is definitely designed to be played with a light gun, not a controller. The learning curve of playing with a controller instead of a light gun is pretty steep. You can hold down the B or the C button to move your cursor around quicker, but that also makes it more difficult to aim and actually hit your target. So, like I said earlier, there's a bunch of trial and error when it comes to this game. You die a lot, and thankfully, as I also stated earlier, there's unlimited continue, so you can figure out the patterns of where, who, and what to shoot. For all its faults, I do have to admit I really enjoy the last shootout with Mad Dog at the end of the game. One of the easier bosses in video game history, but I did get a kick out of how they made it feel like an old-fashioned Western movie when he approaches off screen. It really kind of wrapped up the game nicely. Enjoy. Thanks for watching.
It's all right, honey. We're saved. We're all saved. The stranger saved us. We're mighty beholden to you, stranger. It's all right now. We're all going to be okay. I get a bad feeling. We're going to need you again, stranger.